Ladies and gentlemen, if I told you that the very thing stealing your strength, draining your confidence, and attracting poverty into your life is lying right next to you every single night, would you believe me? Most people don't. But tonight, I'm going to expose a hidden truth that has been destroying discipline, weakening purpose, and inviting spiritual heaviness into thousands of homes. It's not a curse. It's not an attack. It's a habit, a private cycle, silently shaping your future while you sleep. And unless you break it, it will break you. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to reveal can change the entire direction of your life. Your bed is more than a piece of furniture. It is the quiet center of your spiritual and mental renewal, the place where your thoughts soften enough for clarity to rise. It is the atmosphere that welcomes you when you are weary, and the sanctuary that holds your most vulnerable moments, your dreams, your prayers, and your deep rest. What enters this sacred space influences the quality of your energy long before you even realize it. Many people underestimate how much their environment shapes their destiny, think only decisions matter, when in truth atmosphere silently guides decisions. Every object on your bed, every device, every distraction carries a vibration that either lifts you or lowers you. When you place something on your bed that belongs to stress, temptation, or chaos, you invite the same energy into your spirit. Poverty and weakness often begin long before they show up in life. They start with small compromises in the places meant for peace. Your bed should be reserved for renewal, not for interruptions that drain power from your thoughts and purpose. There is a reason ancient wisdom teaches that rest is divine and that sleep is not a physical function only, but a spiritual reset. When your body sleeps, your mind reorganizes everything you process during the day, and your spirit becomes open to direction, insight, and alignment. If the place where this reset happens is polluted with distractions, emotional residue, or items that provoke impulses, your inner system receives mixed signals instead of clarity. You may wake up tired, even after hours of sleep, not because your body is weak, but because the environment robbed your spirit of restoration. Many people place their phones, stressful documents, emotional reminders, or impulse triggers on their bed without realizing the spiritual compromise they create. These objects become silent intruders that disturb the peace required for strong decisions and disciplined days. What touches your bed touches your energy, and what touches your energy shapes the path you walk. When you protect your resting space, you protect the roots of your success. Clutter on the bed does not seem dangerous at first glance, but it creates invisible chaos in the mind. The subconscious mind responds to disorder faster than the conscious mind does, absorbing signals of confusion, heaviness, and imbalance. When your restoration space is cluttered, your thoughts become cluttered, and cluttered thoughts weaken creativity, motivation, and confidence. The bed should be a place your spirit recognizes as peace, not as conflict. Every item you place there influences the emotions you sleep with and the energy you wake up with. When your bed carries objects tied to stress or unhealthy habits, it conditions your mind to expect the same vibration tomorrow. This cycle can slowly attract mental poverty, where ideas shrink, creativity weakens, and enthusiasm fades. Protecting your bed from disorder is a form of protecting your destiny from decline. A disciplined space creates a disciplined mind. Your environment always speaks, even when you are not listening. Your bed speaks the loudest, because it is where you are most open. If your bed carries reminders of impulsive behavior, emotional heaviness, addictive patterns, or digital noise, your spirit absorbs the frequencies during the hours where your defenses are down. This is how weakness enters unnoticed, not in the form of sickness or poverty, but in subtle shifts of motivation, discipline, and confidence. The person who wakes up drained is not cursed. They are surrounded by an environment that silently took from them. When you remove everything that does not belong on your bed, you make space for clarity, strength, and renewal. This simple discipline becomes a spiritual shield, protecting the energy you depend on for your purpose. The quality of your rest determines the quality of your day, and the quality of your day determines the quality of your future. Everything begins with what you allow near your spirit at your most vulnerable time. Energy is real, And every object carries a story, a memory, or influence that enters the atmosphere around your bed. When you keep devices that lead you toward impulsive behavior, emotional triggers, or distractions, you create a field of temptation instead of peace. This weakens your inner discipline, making you more vulnerable to habits that drain your strength and confidence. The human spirit thrives in order, not in confusion, and thrives in purity, not in emotional noise. By keeping your bed clean, empty, and sacred, you train your mind to associate that space with healing and power. You become more focused, more spiritually sensitive, and more aligned with your goals. Many people never rise because their environment is silently lowering them, especially the place where they sleep. Protecting your bed is one of the most powerful forms of protecting your future. There is a deep connection between rest and abundance, between clarity and prosperity, between peace and strength. When the space where you sleep is free of distractions, your inner being receives the message that you are preparing for elevation, not chaos. Your mind becomes sharper because it is not battling noise while you sleep. Your emotions become calmer because they are not wrestling with subtle triggers around you. Your purpose becomes clearer because your spirit is not suffocated by the vibration of fear, temptation, or disorder. People often chase success while overlooking the environment that influences their thinking every night. Success begins in the atmosphere where your thoughts are born. When your resting place is sacred, your thoughts rise higher, your decisions grow stronger, and your energy becomes unstoppable. Every person carries hidden habits that quietly shape the rhythm of their energy, the clarity of their mind, and the direction of their life. These habits rarely announce themselves loudly. They whisper, they linger, they become patterns that feel normal even when they drain strength from the inside. Some habits begin as comfort, others as escape, and others as routine responses to stress that grow stronger through repetition. The danger is not in the habit itself, but in the subtle way it teaches the mind to choose relief over growth. When a person repeatedly gives into impulses, the subconscious begins to expect gratification instead of discipline. This expectation slowly weakens confidence, making the individual believe they have less control than they truly do. What begins as a small behavior eventually becomes a spiritual weight that dims purpose and steals clarity. It is in these unnoticed moments that inner poverty begins. A habit that leaves a person feeling empty afterward is a habit that is draining. More than energy, it is draining identity, confidence, and inner authority. You can always recognize a weakening habit by what it leaves behind: guilt, fogginess, laziness, frustration, or a sense of being disconnected from your own potential. When your mind becomes used to immediate gratification, it loses the sharpness required to pursue long-term success. The ability to focus weakens because the mind keeps searching for the next quick escape. Creativity dims because mental space is filled with impulses instead of direction. Spiritual sensitivity lowers because the heart becomes entangled in cycles that do not nourish it. A person cannot rise when their inner world is constantly being pulled downward by behaviors that consume strength without giving anything in return. Breaking these cycles requires awareness of how deeply they shape the emotional and spiritual atmosphere of your life. The most dangerous habits are the ones people justify because they seem small or harmless. Yet these are the habits that rob them of consistency, enthusiasm, and inner alignment. A habit becomes powerful not because of its size, but because of its frequency. And anything repeated daily begins to reshape the subconscious. Repetition teaches the brain what to crave, what to expect, and what to pursue. If the repetition strengthens discipline, the person grows. If the repetition strengthens impulsiveness, the person weakens. Every time you give in to a draining habit, you reinforce the belief that your comfort is more important than your calling. This belief is subtle but destructive because it silently lowers your standards and convinces you to accept less from yourself. A habit done in private eventually shows its results in public through weakened ambition, decreased energy, and a spirit that feels disconnected from purpose. Recognizing this truth is the first step toward freedom. Most people do not struggle because they lack talent or opportunity. They struggle because their energy is being stolen by unexamined patterns that sabotage their potential. A distracted mind cannot create. A guilty heart cannot lead. A weary spirit cannot build. When a habit becomes the place you run to, instead of the place you grow from, It becomes a thief of destiny. People often underestimate how much emotional and spiritual energy impulsive behaviors consume, thinking the impact ends the moment the act ends. But the real effect lingers in the mind as shame, in the body as exhaustion, and in the spirit as disconnection. This lingering heaviness makes it difficult to focus, difficult to commit, and difficult to believe in one's own strength. The person begins to live below their potential, not because they are incapable, but because their spirit is weighed down by cycles they have not confronted. Breaking a draining habit is not about punishment. It is about reclaiming the strength that was always yours. The moment you acknowledge the grip of a negative pattern, you begin to weaken its power. Awareness brings light, and light exposes what has been stealing from you silently. When you reject an impulsive habit, you are not just resisting temptation, you are reprogramming your identity. You are telling your mind that you are capable of choosing discipline over desire, purpose over pleasure, destiny over distraction. With every moment of resistance, your confidence grows, your focus sharpens, and your spirit becomes stronger. You start to feel connected again to your calling, your dreams, your faith, your possibilities. The power you thought you lost begins to return. Not because the habit disappeared instantly, but because you started taking authority over your decisions one choice at a time. When a person breaks free from a weakening habit, their life begins to rise in ways they never expected. Energy increases because the spirit is no longer leaking strength. Confidence returns because discipline rebuilds identity. Peace grows because the mind is no longer divided between desire and regret. Inspiration flows because inner space is no longer clouded with impulses. Opportunities open because clarity replaces confusion. A person becomes more productive, more spiritually aligned, and more emotionally grounded when they stop feeding habits that drain them from within. This transformation is not sudden. It is a steady restoration that happens each time you choose a higher version of yourself. Freedom begins the moment you stop giving your energy to what weakens you and start giving your commitment to what strengthens you. The habit loses its influence because your purpose becomes stronger than your impulses. Discipline is the moment you reclaim the steering wheel of your life and stop letting impulses dictate your direction. It is not a restriction, but a declaration that you are stronger than the habits that once controlled you. When you tell a destructive pattern no more, you awaken a power inside you that had been sleeping under layers of fear, guilt, and routine. Discipline restores what distraction tried to steal: your confidence, your clarity, and your authority over your future. Every disciplined choice becomes a message to your subconscious mind that you are capable of more than you once believed. The human spirit thrives when it knows it is being led by strength and not by weakness. Discipline sharpens your focus and protects your energy from being wasted on things that do not elevate you. It shifts your identity from someone who reacts to someone who creates. Discipline does not limit you. It frees the best version of you. The moment you remove temptations from your environment, your spirit feels the difference, because the battles you once lost become battles you no longer need to fight. The easiest way to strengthen discipline is to eliminate the triggers that lead you toward old habits. When you delete the distractions from your devices, your mind no longer wrestles with the same impulses. When you stop placing objects of temptation on your bed, your environment becomes a partner in your growth instead of a partner in your decline. Your room becomes a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. Your bed becomes a place of clarity instead of confusion. The spaces around you begin to reflect the discipline within you. A disciplined environment trains your spirit to expect order, peace, and purpose. It tells your mind that you are preparing for elevation, not weakness. The body becomes stronger when the mind stops feeding impulses that weaken self-control. Every time you choose discipline over desire, you strengthen the neural pathways that make powerful decisions easier in the future. You begin to feel a shift inside. Your decisions become clearer, your confidence becomes louder, and your goals feel closer. The fog that once clouded your thoughts starts to lift, revealing direction where there was confusion. The temptation that once felt overpowering loses its intensity because your spirit grows used to choosing strength. When you discipline your behaviors, you discipline your thoughts. And when you discipline your thoughts, you discipline your destiny. This transformation is not sudden. It is the slow, steady victory of choosing purpose over comfort. And with every victory, your inner authority grows. Spiritual sensitivity increases when the noise of impulsive habits disappears. Discipline opens a space within you where you can hear guidance, intuition, and inspiration more clearly. When your mind is not battling impulses, it becomes receptive to wisdom. When your spirit is not weighed down by guilt or heaviness, it rises with clarity. You begin to notice opportunities you once overlooked, answers you once couldn't hear, and strength you once thought you didn't have. Discipline reconnects you to the deepest parts of yourself, the parts that know your purpose, your calling, and your potential. It helps you feel aligned again, grounded again, balanced again. With discipline, you return to yourself. With discipline, you return to your path. Poverty, mental, emotional, or spiritual, begins to disappear when discipline returns. A focused mind produces solutions. A confident spirit attracts opportunities. A disciplined lifestyle strengthens inner authority. When you gain control over your impulses, you gain control over your choices, and when you control your choices, you control the outcomes that shape your future. This is why discipline is the foundation of abundance. It redirects energy that was once wasted and invests it into growth. It removes the chaos that once clouded your thinking and replaces it with clarity. It shifts your daily actions toward a higher level of living. Abundance is not an accident. It is a result of disciplined intention. Fear weakens when discipline strengthens, because fear thrives in confusion, instability, and lack of self-control. But when you build routines that honor your purpose, fear finds no room to anchor itself in your mind. Confidence replaces anxiety, because you trust yourself more, your decisions, your boundaries, your direction. The noise that once distracted you becomes irrelevant because your focus is sharper than your fears. Discipline builds a mental strength that fear cannot penetrate. It creates resilience, stability, and certainty. You begin to move differently, think differently, and speak differently. You carry yourself with the quiet authority of someone who is no longer controlled by impulses or distractions. The quality of your life rises when discipline rises, because everything around you begins to align with the standards you set. You attract better people because disciplined energy repels chaos. You gain better opportunities because consistency builds credibility. You experience deeper peace because your environment no longer pulls you into temptation or confusion. You start waking up with more strength, going to sleep with more satisfaction, and moving through the day with more purpose. Discipline becomes a protective shield around your mind, keeping distractions out and clarity in. Your entire life begins to reflect the choices you make in private. When you discipline your impulses, you unlock potential you didn't know was waiting inside you. The creativity that was buried under guilt resurfaces with power. The confidence that was suppressed by repetition or old habits rises with boldness. The ambition that felt distant becomes achievable. You begin to feel alive again, inspired again, in control again. You start building the version of yourself you always knew was possible, but never had the strength to become. Discipline reveals what you were capable of all along. It reminds you that you are not weak, you were simply surrounded by the wrong triggers and driven by the wrong habits. When discipline enters, the real you returns. Your energy is the currency that determines what you attract, what you build, and what you become. And every object you allow near your resting space either deposits into that energy or withdraws from it. People often guard their money but forget to guard their energy, not realizing that energy controls everything money cannot buy. When you allow distractions, temptations, or emotional triggers onto your bed, you teach your spirit to accept chaos where peace should live. The bed becomes a place of conflict instead of clarity, and your nights become restless even when your body sleeps. A disturbed resting space creates a disturbed inner world, and that inner disturbance follows you throughout the day. Protecting your energy means refusing to allow anything into your space that weakens who you are becoming. You must treat your sleeping environment as sacred because it shapes your subconscious more than any other place. What surrounds you at night shapes who you are in the morning. Guarding this space is guarding your future. Your future is shaped by your energy long before it is shaped by your decisions, because decisions flow from the emotional and mental strength you carry within. When your resting environment is filled with distractions or objects associated with unhealthy habits, you wake up spiritually drained rather than spiritually strengthened. This weakness shows up as procrastination, confusion, lowered motivation, and lack of clarity, even though the cause began in the night before. You cannot rise with power if you sleep in an atmosphere of temptation or emotional heaviness. Your mind absorbs whatever surrounds you while you sleep, and your spirit reacts to the vibration that touches it in silence. When the environment is pure, your inner world becomes steady, focused, and resilient. When the environment is polluted, your inner strength thins out without warning. Protecting your bed is not simply about tidiness, it is about controlling the energy that enters your spirit during its most open state. A guarded night produces a powerful day. Every object carries a memory, a meaning, a vibration, and an influence. And those influences enter your emotional field whether you consciously acknowledge them or not. When you place devices filled with impulsive content, stressful conversations, or addictive distractions beside you, your spirit battles with invisible noise throughout the night. Even in sleep, your subconscious remains sensitive to everything around you, processing signals you are not aware of and storing emotions you did not choose. This is why some people wake up exhausted without knowing why, because their environment drained them while they slept. A clean, peaceful space allows your subconscious to rest, heal, and create clarity. A cluttered, chaotic space fills your subconscious with confusion, temptation, and unresolved tension. Your energy cannot rise higher when it is constantly wrestling with the residue of your environment. Protecting your space is an act of protecting the emotional foundation your future depends on. When you keep your bed free of anything that carries chaos, your mind begins to feel lighter and more focused, because it finally has the space to breathe and renew. Peace becomes easier to access, because the energy around you supports it instead of fighting it. Inspiration begins to return because clarity opens pathways for creativity and inner guidance. You start to think more clearly, feel more grounded, and act more purposefully. The discipline of protecting your space teaches your spirit that you value your well-being, which raises your inner standards. High standards attract high outcomes because life always mirrors the energy you hold within. When your environment communicates order, discipline, and peace, your mind begins to operate from the same qualities. The protection of your energy becomes the foundation for your success, your emotional resilience, and your spiritual growth. What you allow into your resting place becomes what you allow into your future. Your future depends on the level of energy you carry, because energy influences your decisions, and decisions determine your destiny. When you protect your energy, you automatically protect your clarity, your strength, and your emotional stability. You begin to attract opportunities that match your elevated vibration instead of repeating cycles of confusion or fear. The moment you stop allowing draining habits or objects near your resting space, you begin to rise to a higher version of yourself. People notice the change not because you say anything, but because your energy speaks louder than your words. You walk with more authority, you speak with more conviction, and you live with more intention. Protecting your energy is protecting your identity, your calling, and your purpose. Your future belongs to the version of you that refuses to let chaos enter the spaces where peace should reign. When you guard your energy, you guard the destiny waiting for you.